It's a pleasure to have our friend Lee Zeldin on. Lee, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to be with you.
Well, it's great to have you. I wanted to ask you a few questions here because it's been a while. Number one, boy, elections make a difference. You said if you got elected, you would fire Alvin Bragg. Did you not say that?
I did. And the first thing I would have done immediately after taking the oath, my first words, first action would have been turning to Alvin Bragg to let him know that he's being fired for his refusal to enforce the law. I mean, the guy came in day one. He puts out a day one memo saying that all different kinds of crimes he was just not going to enforce at all sorts of other crimes he was going to treat as lesser included offenses. He had all sorts of individual cases that popped up that highlighted how he was the wrong guy for the job, viewing DA as a defense attorney, not a district attorney. So for many different reasons, because he just refused to do his job, that would have been my first act as governor.
And then you see what he's been doing the last several weeks. Does that kind of vindicate further your position?
This is a political prosecution. This is an investigation that reeks of being political and partisan. I mean, he campaigned on taking down the president of the United States. The former president here inherits a case that the FEC has jurisdiction, the Federal Elections Commission, the Department of Justice, his predecessor, Cy Vance, and all sorts of people over the years decided that there was no case here to go after. And here he is deciding that he wants to embarrass the former president, wants to bring him up on these charges. And for those who are out there who understand the law, they've heard of the term statute of limitations before. You're taking a case that is known to be a misdemeanor. You're trying to elevate it to a felony somehow. And there's a lot of people who might not even like Donald Trump. There might be people out there who just consider themselves to be legal scholars, and they try to follow the book, saying that this is wrong on so many different levels as they look at his past record, Bragg's past record. They look at all of the other entities and individuals who passed up prosecuting this case. They look at the statute of limitations, and they know that this just reeks of being a partisan political act that was really based in trying to fulfill a campaign promise to an unhinged electorate. The Democratic Party primary base in New York County on Manhattan. In Manhattan, these Democrats are not going to be satisfied ever. You can impeach Trump 10 times. You could prosecute him. They're going to want to see him prosecuted again. You can't make them happy, but he's going to try because he's going to have his own political future and goals, and maybe he thinks it helps him with the Democratic base of New York City.
What do you make of Al Sharpton implying that Donald Trump's made anti-Semitic comments? I mean, isn't this really laughable coming from this man?
So I have been around Donald Trump so many times and had so many conversations and witnessed so many acts and seen how personal is with his own family, that he is someone who is always looking for opportunities to try to strengthen his relationship with the Jewish community, to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. He signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism. It's in his own family with his daughter and son-in-law and others. It's as personal as it gets. For Sharpton, he should be recognizing the facts here and just treating this as it should, because quite frankly, there's a whole lot that stinks around him of people who have been blatantly anti-Semitic. Look at those around him who get tied up in the Women's March of Manhattan, not the one that combats anti-Semitism, but the competitive Women's March that was created where it was hosted by blatant anti-Semites. Where is the outrage when that happens? The hypocrisy, the double standard, the stink means that you really have no business going after a guy who has shown in so many different ways how serious he is in wanting to find new ways to strengthen that relationship with the Jewish community.
Let me ask you about Andrew Cuomo, since the election's over. Have you had any interaction with him?
I have not had any interaction with Andrew Cuomo since he's left as governor. And I know that, and it's pretty obvious that he feels like it was a premature exit. For a whole lot of other New Yorkers, they feel like he stayed there too long. There's a big push in Albany to change the name of the Tappan Zee Bridge back to Tappan Zee Bridge. He renamed it after his father, and he did it in a way where he was jamming up all sorts of other state legislators, even people of his own party upset at him with the tactics, the way he did it. And, of course, everything that happened with COVID, restrictions on freedoms, decisions that ended up, quite frankly, leading to a lot of deaths, as we saw inside of the nursing homes, and then profiting off of it with a multi-million-dollar book deal. What we have seen, a trend that has only continued of Andrew Cuomo's unpopularity only growing worse and worse and worse as time has gone on. He is not any more popular today than he was when he left, and there's no stronger appetite for him to come back today than when he left that position.
And you had been preparing to run against him before he resigned in disgrace, no?
When I announced for governor, Andrew Cuomo was the governor, and he was running for a fourth term. We were ready to take him out. He had overstayed his welcome, and quite frankly, he got replaced by somebody who was even worse than he was. At least Andrew Cuomo would show successfully at times an ability to push back against the far left of his party. Sometimes he went along with it. Sometimes he was unsuccessful in pushing back. I get that. But Kathy Hochul, she has been rolled in so many different ways, and now I woke up reading a story today about how they are on the verge in the coming days and finalizing next year's state budget that they are going to be banning gas appliances inside of new construction. It's unbelievable. And they're proposing one new tax after another. Those stories coming out every single day. People have had enough. It's getting worse before it gets better, and a lot of people are fleeing to states like Florida.
Lee, can I hold you over the break, please?
Yes, sir.
I'm talking to Lee Zeldin. Really would have been a fantastic governor. Certainly would have been far better than the prior governors. We are here with our friend Lee Zeldin, who came within an eyelash being governor of New York. And Lee Zeldin, I want to ask you a question. I'm not asking you who you're endorsing, but you're friends with Ron DeSantis. You're friends with Donald Trump. Maybe you're friends with other potential candidates. How do you think things are going right now?
The trend over the course of the last couple of months, especially over the course of the last week or two, has certainly been in Donald Trump's favor. I think there's been a strong backlash to Bragg's targeting of Donald Trump. I think that the Republican primary base is thirsty for more talk of policy substance issues, to talk about the plan of how to defeat the Democrats in 2024, on how to save America. I think that there's a lot of Republican primary voters who aren't thrilled watching the negative attacks that fly around here, and a lot of people are realizing that there might be a heck of a lot more of that as we go further along in the primary. And I get that. I mean, it's high stakes. You're running for president of the United States. There's going to be attacks that fly around. But what you can't lose sight of is that if you aren't talking about the issues, the substance, your vision to save this country, don't expect your followers to be doing it for you. For President Trump, he has a lot of successes from his time as president to tout. If he doesn't tout it, can't expect his followers to do it for him. Ron DeSantis, he has a lot of successes of his time as governor of Florida. I happen to be in Florida right now, and by the way, I was just with a couple people who are looking forward to seeing you in a couple days at tomorrow at an event.
Well, thank you.
I have experienced this quite often, getting to witness it in person. The loyalty that so many people have out there who are listening to you right now, because you speak truth and people need more of that. And unfortunately, too many media sources you go to, and it's like they're dumbing down their audience as opposed to talking facts and truth. And people want to see that too, especially with candidates running for president of the United States. Ron DeSantis is traveling the country. He's giving speeches talking about his blueprint in Florida. And I could say as a New Yorker that I have witnessed a whole lot of people fleeing the state every single day, heading to places like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, the Carolinas, because they want their money to go further, to feel safer, and to live life freer. Earlier today, I drove past a Penske moving truck, and my first thought is, there's no way that this truck is heading its way up to New York. These are one-way trips down to places like Florida. With this presidential race, we have every opportunity to elect a Republican, a conservative president November of 2024 to save this country. We can't lose our eyes on the prize. The nicknames aren't what should be getting us over the top. It's the policy positions, it's the ideas, the contrast with the Democrats destroying this country.
Man, oh, Manischewitz, that's 100% right. And I was discussing this several times, and I discussed it last night, Lee, and I also said we have several candidates, two right at the top there right now, Trump and DeSantis, who will be fantastic presidents. But we are going to lose if we don't run on the issues, if we don't run on issues that are relevant to the American people, and if the name-calling continues. It just turns people off in the general election. Whether people like it or not, that's just what it does, right?
No doubt. And I saw during our race for governor last year, and I got more votes than any Republican statewide in New York in 52 years. We won the vote of longtime Democrat constituencies. We won inside of the city of New York the Asian American vote, the Dominican vote, the Orthodox Jewish vote, and more. Why? Because we were showing up, talking to them. First off, showing up is quite the change. They hadn't seen Republicans in a long time. And when we showed up, we talked to them about the issues that matter most to them. We need to make the streets where you live safer. Here is how we do that. We were talking about upward economic mobility, combating homelessness and mental health, to be able to improve the quality of their kids' education. And that is what they are thirsty for. These are Democrat voters unhappy with Democratic policies, very displeased with the Democratic Party, but they're continuing to vote Democrat. Republicans might make a really bad assumption and say, oh, well, they're just going to come around. No, they're not, because they believe that the Democratic Party is the devil you know being better than the devil you don't. And the only way for Republicans to combat it is to show up exactly where your high-paid political consultants are telling you not to, because that's probably an area where Republicans haven't been in a long time, and you might be surprised that Democrats are waiting there with open arms. Independent voters, Democratic voters, people who are waiting in this general election, understanding that this country is heading in the wrong direction, they want strong leadership. They have so many priorities that transcend blind partisan politics. But what you have to do is work hard for their vote, take nothing for granted, all in, and then you get rewarded with a new relationship that maybe might turn into something more with a community that's been voting Democrat forever.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of Biden and the fact that this family of his is so damn corrupt? I mean, there's emails, there's texts, you got a whole laptop, things keep coming out every day. There's even more today that I haven't even gotten to yet. And the Department of Justice doesn't even appoint a special counsel to investigate the sitting president of the United States, which is the purpose of the special counsel regulation.
Etched in stone outside the Department of Justice, it says, when law ends, tyranny begins. And there are unequal scales of justice. There are different sets of rules in the administration of justice based off of your last name, your political calculations, connections, and the influence that you have. Here, the Biden Justice Department is refusing to go after the Biden family for what is clear as day conflict of interest. No one's going to be able to convince me that Hunter Biden is, in fact, a great energy expert in Ukraine, a great financier to be working with the Chinese, and one of the greatest painters of the modern era. It's all just new ways to be able to funnel money to their family. And they were all capitalizing on Vice President Joe Biden, who was using his office, his travels, his official position to be able to give this access. They were cashing in on that access for themselves. Kudos to the House Republicans, the new majority that, thank God's taken over these gavels. Because sure as heck, Jerry Nadler in the House Judiciary Committee wasn't going to do anything of what Jim Jordan's willing to do to get to the bottom of it. Carolyn Maloney, as the chair of the House Oversight Committee, didn't want to touch it. But give James Comer an opportunity, and the subpoenas are ready to be flying wherever needed. They need to continue down this fight. Don't be intimidated by people saying, well, no, this is just a distraction. It's not right. No, listen, they understand that this is about oversight. It's a function of Congress. It's one of the reasons why you exist, especially if the executive branch isn't going to do what it needs to do with their powers. Congress, checks and balance, do what they need to do with oversight and make people believe in the system again.
Any thoughts of potentially running for future office?
I believe that there is a reentry to government in the future. Right now, my daughters are in 11th grade. They're 18 months out from college. I got to tell you, it's a silver lining. I'm enjoying being with my family. I am staying active, doing speeches, media interviews. I created a political action committee a couple weeks ago just to find new ways to help grow the Republican Party, just do our part. We'll see what the future holds. I want to continue to stay engaged. I love our country. I'm finishing my 20th year in the Army in 2 months here at the end of May. I'm going to continue to serve once I pass that mark. And I just believe that we all need to define success, at least in part. For me, it's more than just a small part, but we all need to, at least in part, define success as leaving this world better than we found it. And we can't just allow the bad people to get their hands on power and do the wrong thing with it. It's about the rest of us ensuring that we are in charge of our government as opposed to the government being in charge of us. We should have term limits enacted. We should have people who are in office who are accountable to us, and when they aren't, throw their asses out, whether they're in a Republican district or Democratic district, conservative, moderate, liberal. It doesn't matter. Everyone is accountable to the people, especially they need that reminder when they lose that focus and that touch on who they're elected to represent.
Lee, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for running. Thank you for being the man you are and your friendship. And God bless you, my brother.
It's great to be with you. Take care.
You take care of yourself. Lee Zeldin, terrific man.